Efe Ajagba versus Guido Vianello. 10 rounds in the heavyweight division. This is on the undercard of Jared Anderson and Riyad Murray. This is a 50-50 fight to me. It's going to be a good one. There's a lot at stake here for both men. Let's get into it. Let's start with Ajagba. 19 wins, 1 loss, 14 wins by way of knockout. Ajagba has came a long way in a short period in his career. Like, remember when he first came on the scene? He was a brute force, man, an imposing figure, a guy who was knocking cats out, and they all looked similar and they all looked demolishing and devastating. I remember when Curtis Harper stepped into the ring to fight him. Well, I wouldn't over exaggerate the word step, because he stepped in and stepped out, and I don't blame him for that. Of course, we know there was some financial things that Harper wasn't finalized before he got into the ring. So he said, I'm not taking punishment for no reason. But we didn't know that at the time. At the time, it just looked like, man, he wanted no parts of Ajagba. I don't blame him. The man is an imposing figure. But he was still a raw boxer, still kind of new to boxing, very robotic, not a lot of variation in his punches. Felt like he always had a pretty good jab, but he wasn't setting things up. He was just a guy who could punch. Not good footwork, was limited, but he had that right hand, and that right hand in the heavyweight division or left can always bail you out if you need it. But he was still very raw. But his journey up, we started to see more improvement after his fight when he fought Frank Sanchez. That was a rough fight for Ajagba, man. That was a fight where the mirage and the figure and the intimidation looked very average. When you're knocking cats out, you look like this big, massive force, this big, massive thing. But when you are not dominating and you're not fast enough and you can't keep up with the speed and you can't cut off the ring, you go from someone looking massive, magnanimous, to someone looking very, very small. And Ajagba, he just couldn't keep up with the boxer on that night. He couldn't get away with the right hand. He couldn't get away with not cutting off of the ring. He just didn't learn enough in time to be able to compete with Frank Sanchez in that time, right? Sanchez was just too much, and he lost a wide decision victory. After that, he fought Stephen Shaw last year. And that was going to be very interesting because Shaw can do some similar things that Frank Sanchez can do. Not as sharp as Frank Sanchez, doesn't move as well as Frank Sanchez, but does a lot of similar things that can pose to be a problem for Efe Ajagba. And for the first few rounds, it looked like it was going to be a similar outcome, man. Shaw looked sharp, he looked fast, he looked quick, and he was having a lot of success. But somewhere after, I want to say the 5th or the 6th round, things started to change with the momentum, right? Shaw was starting to get tired a little bit. His movement wasn't as quick or as fluid as it was, and Ajagba just looked dialed in and just went to work behind that jab. Jab was connecting a whole lot. He was changing angles and punching in different variations. He was changing angles in how he was punching, not just jabbing the head, but jabbing the body, starting high and then finishing low. It was just a different version of him, a version that never panicked, a version that was feinting to set up his shots. And it was just a much better composed version, and he was able to get the win. So you got to see that he knows that he has power, because when he did land that right hand, Shaw definitely felt it, and he had to move out of the way, right? So we felt the power, but we were now starting to see different parts of Ajagba starting to improve and develop. You could see he doesn't want to be just a guy that can punch. He wants to be multi-dimensional, not just a one-dimensional fighter. And he won a solid fight, man. It was a close fight, and he came out on top. Now, in his most recent fight, he fought Joseph Goodall. And man, he had a breakthrough performance, man. He was dominant from the jump. His punches were landing. They were powerful and accurate. He added different variations, creativity to his attacks. He wasn't so robotic, right? Ajagba was throwing uppercuts and precision. How many times have you seen Ajagba throw consistent uppercuts that landed and looked intentional in a fight? right? He was setting things up perfectly. When he landed, Goodall felt it. Goodall was falling. He was feeling every bit of the punches that were being landed, man. Ajagba had a lot of success with the jab. And then he started looping shots in, coming around Goodall's high guard and followed through with volume of punches, and the ref stopped the fight, man. It was very impressive, man, because you can tell the guy works hard. You can tell he takes this seriously, and you can see him starting to implement what he's learning in training and putting into the ring and making sure that he's not just a guy coming forward, that he's adding IQ and strategy to his approach in order to win the fight. It was a very good performance against Goodall with a strong finish. But, this is another tough fight for him, man. I'm really curious to see how this one plays out. Let's talk about his opponent, Guido Vianello. 12 wins, 1 loss, 1 draw, 10 wins by way of knockout. I think Vianello was a skillful heavyweight, light on his feet, good movement. I think he's a smart fighter, not a lot of wasted punches, nice jab to set up his work. He took a tough fight and loss against Jonathan Rice, man. Rice is a tough game fighter, crafty. He's a big guy, a strong guy, and he's got deceiving hand speed, man. Before the 6th round where he got cut, Vianello was winning the fight, man. He was keeping the distance, not over-committing, landing his jab, and trying to land the overhand right. Now, he was trying to set it up, trying to bait Rice in, but Rice is smart, man. So he saw the shots coming, and before Vianello could land those shots, Rice would turn his head at the right time, or he would duck his head at the right time. And when he did get clipped, he would roll with the punches to take off a little bit of steam on them. And I thought Rice did a good job of, kind of staying one step ahead. I never got the sense that when Vianello did land on Rice, that Rice was ever really hurt or was ever discouraged, right? He would take the shots if it landed, but he wouldn't panic. He would just come forward, even though he wasn't throwing a whole lot, which is why he was losing those early rounds, because he wasn't in activity, right? You got to go with the more aggressive fighter. But it was just a very interesting dynamics of how that fight started. Rice was landing a little cleaner at end of the 5th round going into the 6th. I don't know if Johnny Rice, was trying to gauge his energy, but man, he started coming forward a lot more in that 6th and started letting his hands go a little bit more. And he caught Vianello with a beautiful right hand that was set up beautifully. Flick with that left hand to make him focus on the left and come through with that right hand that landed cleanly and snapped Vianello's head back. And then next thing you know, the man has a cut over his eye, and a cut that would not stop bleeding, and they had to stop the fight. Now, they were trying to argue that the cut was caused by something else, but they gave Rice the well-deserved win because of that cut, and Vianello suffered his first loss. He was doing so well, and one punch changed the whole trajectory and the outcome of that fight. After that, he stepped in the ring to fight Curtis Harper, the same guy who walked out on Ajagba, and he beat up Harper pretty bad, man. That fight should have been stopped. I mean, that one was a rough one to watch, man. Harper did not look like he was in any type of fighting shape. After that, he fought Moses Johnson, and he stopped him in the 1st round. I felt like he looked good doing it. He used the aggression of the aggressive fighter and landed beautifully timed right hands, subtle shots, slick shots from in close that dropped Johnson, and he was just never the same after the first time that he found himself on the Kansas, right? Moses Johnson is a guy that can punch a little bit. He had a pretty good record going into the fight. But man, he looked terrible, man. I don't think he ever recovered from the first knockdown. He was falling all over the place after that, and Vianello just teed off of him a couple times, and I felt like that ref should have stopped the fight and should not have let Johnson take some of the extra added punches that came his way, because he didn't need to take those shots. He was out of it already. So this is going to be an interesting fight, man, a fight that could go either way. So who wins? When Vianello was fighting Rice, he was winning the fight. He was on his way to a victory as long as he didn't get too caught up on the inside and he didn't get caught with the shot. And he got caught with the shot, and then everything went downhill from there. He's got 10 knockouts, 12 fights, but he's not really a big puncher like that to me. I don't think he is a puncher. I say he's more of a boxer. He's light on his feet, a guy that wants to stay on the outside or that mid-distance range where he can slip in and slip out at his pace on his own timing when he is comfortable. He has really good footwork. And as long as he is in control and he's comfortable, he's going to be a tough guy to beat. Ajagba has been working on his fundamentals and his skills. His jab to me has always been pretty consistently solid, but he's now going to the body with variation. He's setting up traps. He's punching in combinations a lot more. He's just much improved. And of course, when he decides to let his hands go, very few can take a bunch of his punches consistently. But Vianello does have the type of style to kind of neutralize Ajagba's offense if he stays on the outside and Ajagba can't cut off the ring. However, Ajagba did do a decent job of cutting off the ring against Stephen Shaw in order to land on him. And if he can do more of that, he could use his power to turn this whole fight around. At first, I was kind of leaning Vianello because I think he's the better natural boxer to me. And I don't know what the betting odds are. I don't even know who's the favorite. Maybe it's Ajagba, so there may be a lot of value in Vianello from a betting standpoint. Not really sure. And so it's going to be interesting. I've counted out Ajagba before, and he's shown much improvement since then. I think he can hurt Vianello. I think he can stop Vianello. I'm not sure if Vianello can hurt Ajagba. I don't know if he has that type of power, but I think if Ajagba lets his hands go, man, he can get the stoppage. I'm not too sold on Vianello's chin, but Vianello could just come in and play it safe and try to box his way to a victory, which is more than possible. But I think if the fight is close, I think Ajagba is going to take the risk. I'm not sure Vianello is going to take the risk if the fight is close. He might just come in to try to play a safe fight and try to box his way to a victory. But I like Efe Ajagba to win this fight, man. I think it's going to be a close fight. I think it could be some close rounds. If Ajagba lets his hands go consistently, he could get a stoppage or at least get the ref to stop the fight. I could see it also going the distance. I could see either guy winning this fight. I think it will go the distance. I think Ajagba wins by some type of split decision, and maybe we see a knockdown, or a stoppage. But I like Ajagba to win this fight by some type of decision. What are your thoughts on this fight? Who do you have winning this one? Let me know in the comment section below. If you'd like to support the channel, there's a couple ways that you can do so. You can like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. If you'd like support by way of donation, you can find options in the description below. Also, my Cash App handle will be on screen as well. Any amount goes towards the growth and the development of this channel. So with all that being said, if you've been watching the video, this time do me a favor and subscribe to the channel, and we'll definitely see you next time.